We are just upon the 1:30 mark here. We will call to order the Cumberland County Finance meeting, and we will begin with a roll call, please.
Commissioner Nieder.
I am here.
Commissioner Fasci.
I'm here.
Commissioner Eichelberger.
Present.
All right. We are at the point of the agenda to entertain public comment. I understand there are a few folks online. If there's anyone online wishing to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand feature. And Lauren, do we have anybody indicating they want to make a public comment at this time?
I'm not seeing.
All right. And we have folks in the room, but I believe they're here for the discussion. We will move on into the approval of the minutes from the June 4th meeting.
I'll move to approve.
A second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have the discussion and possible action to request DEP's approval to transfer the county's yard waste recycling equipment. And we have with us Kirk Stoner here to lead that discussion.
Okay.
Kirk, I will turn it over to you.
Sure. Commissioners, last month we had a meeting with municipalities to talk about transfer of the yard waste equipment. As you recall, Hampton was leading a group of municipalities to develop an MOU. There'll be an interim transfer of the equipment to Hampton as the participating municipalities looked at forming an authority for joint use of the equipment. There were questions raised at the meeting of some of the participating municipalities, namely Lower Allen and Silver Spring. The board tabled action at that meeting, requesting that Hampton conduct a meeting with all the municipalities to discuss further modifications to the MOU. Hampton completed that activity. Currently, we have Hampton, Fairview, and East Pennsboro Township that expressed interest. Lower Allen and Silver Spring have expressed to us that they're no longer participating in the MOU. Pursuant to that, Hampton Township provided us with certificate of insurance for their equipment. They provided us with signed MOUs from East Pennsboro Township and also Fairview Township. So when you look at all the requirements we have for transferring equipment, we believe in looking at those that they've met them. The remaining one is DEP, coordinating with DEP for the final agreement. As you recall, the discussion at the meeting, DEP has to agree with the county and the municipalities for transfer of the equipment. We did an initial call, Justin did with DEP to just identify if there are any major issues they had. They just made a few comments to him about making sure that the authority, if and when formed, is open to anyone and anyone can join at the time. They also wanted to look at the authority start date to try and get an estimated start date for that. And also work out provisions if the MOU process fails and the authority is not formed, what happens with the equipment. So there's some issues. I believe some of those are already worked out in the MOU, stated in the MOU, but issues we'd be working out with DEP from our staff to work with them and Hampton Township to finalize the agreement then would guide the transfer. So that's a quick overview. Hampton's here today. They can East Pennsboro's here today. Other municipalities, I'm sure they'll want to provide comments to the board.
Okay. Kirk, my one question would be, so you kind of touched on it. If the authority falls through and DEP says, no, we've already transferred the equipment to Hampton, but there's no authority formed. Can it doesn't come back to us, does it? Do they instruct Hampton then on the disposition of that equipment? Okay, it would come from DEP
To Hampton.
to Hampton.
Yes.
Okay, okay. That was the only question I had. Jean, did you?
I don't have any questions, but I know that I'm certain that everyone has something that they'd like to say.
So are there folks that wanted to open up public discussion on this matter or?
Yeah, Dave Lenker, Silver Spring Township. I still request that if there is a motion that if there is the ability for our township to either purchase or enter an agreement for one of each, I believe the leaf turner, the screening machine, and one of the grinders. There's only 2 municipalities in this proposed authority from Cumberland County. The third is from York County. To me, I personally, I work at that municipality, but I don't think that should be it should be irrelevant to the fact when they originally joined, that was to be a temporary measure until things progressed in York County. So there's only 2 municipalities currently left in that agreement from Cumberland County. There's other municipalities I spoke to informally that had elected not to progress with the MOU with Hampton, that it possibly would express interest in forming another one, some sort of authority with the equipment that we would purchase. There was too many unknown variables in as this progressed with our meeting with Hampton, we did not feel comfortable pursuing it. It was open-ended, so that's where we're gonna let it.
So Kirk, I guess that's a question then that I would ask, when we're talking, and we have referenced just equipment, are we talking all equipment, lock, stock and barrel goes?
It's listed in the MOU,
Okay,
with the list of equipment, which is all of our equipment.
okay, so it's all, there's none that we're piecemealing anywhere
Nothing we're
else.
keeping
Okay. Okay, are there items that Hampton, you're represented here, are there items you don't want? Are you just taking it all, or should?
Commissioners, thank you for your time. I concur completely with Kirk's assessment. So I would be happy to address any questions you may have this afternoon, but have nothing further to add to what Kirk has stated. We are prepared. We have the equipment insured. Should the board, which you expressed interest in transferring the equipment sooner than later at your meeting last month, to pursue with that and cooperate with the other member municipalities, East Pennsboro and Fairview Township. Also keep an open mind to, in the future, should any municipalities who chose not to, for whatever reason, informal or otherwise, not to join the MOU at this time, we'd certainly invite them to express interest in that.
Hi, I don't know
Hello.
that we've met.
Ben Shaw, with East Pennsboro Township, the township manager. No, I'll third Kirk's comments. We're in lockstep at this point, and I think we were looking to get this done quickly at the county's request. And that's why we expedited after the last meeting to get the commissioners to act and move forward.
One thing that was brought up at that meeting that I found concerning was there was discussion. They're eliminating the capital aspect of the agreement. The comment was made that they'll, once they transition the equipment to the township, that it would be used until its useful life was no longer feasible to operate, and that then it would dissipate pretty much the equipment and the shared use. That was not the purpose in the beginning of what was proposed when the county was approached as to what would happen with the equipment. This was to ensure that that program ran indefinitely out into the future, just as it had for the last 30 years. That wasn't the intent for someone to be able to get possession of the equipment, was that once they had it, that they would operate it amongst themselves without putting any capital money into a fund and just using it until the useful life was out. That was not the intended purpose of what was discussed in the beginning. That was told to us flat out. That was when we felt as a township, we were no longer in that. It is not fair to any of the other municipalities that currently had decided to drop out. If everybody knew that there was no financial obligation up front, then everybody would have got into that and used it till the equipment was gone. That was not what the intent of this was. And this is one of the things that we grapple with as a township. We're trying to do what's right for the program itself, not just for the benefit of our residents.
Which is why you want to buy the equipment directly from the county instead of participating in the MOU. I will say that indeed the capital campaign or fund was eliminated from the interim MOU. As soon as the MOUs are approved, DEP authorizes and the commissioners authorize the transfer of the equipment, we will immediately begin work on the formation of an authority, which would include that capital contribution. We thought in the interim that this would expedite the process and afford the county commissioners with their desire to have the equipment transferred and removed from your insurance policy.
So it's your intent then to
have a capital
Yes,
account associated with this.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And I think the intent of that was that there's a steering committee created. And everybody has a voice in how that program comes together. I think the idea was we took that initial MOU from the county and modified that to try to fit this situation. But trying to bring all those members in as a steering committee, I mean, there's 3 members now, but trying to bring them as a steering committee to all decide together how best to handle that going forward.
And I'd be even willing to send out an email upon transfer of the equipment to the MOU entity, not just Hampton, but the other members, and offer the opportunity for them to re-engage in the consideration of participating.
I think that seems reasonable because right now, you know, the information is what's on the table.
Right.
And the municipalities can choose to join or not.
Correct. And throughout the process, every municipality, even if they weren't, if they had expressed interest early on to not participate, they were still invited.
Yeah, Kevin Blaster, Shippensburg Borough. Shippensburg was probably the first one to say, we're out, because we're the southernmost part of Cumberland County. And we don't need it once a year for a week and a half, 2 weeks tops. But I attended the first couple meetings, and yes, it was coming across that this whole program will continue as is. And I've just been having mixed feelings or hearing miscommunications. So that's why I'm here, just to see how the process is going to proceed. Because I think it's only fair. If things weren't going to happen, then some of us probably would have stayed in. So, and what I'm talking about is a capital part. So that's what we're hearing today.
Okay. So I'm confused. I'm really sorry. I'm gonna take the bait on this. So I'm looking at the MOU. And there's clearly a paragraph that talks about maintenance, repair, and transportation hourly rates, where a fee will be collected from participants for maintenance and repair. And there's also a paragraph, section 4.2, called capital hourly rate, where that will be collected for the purposes of purchasing new equipment in the future.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm like utterly confused.
Throughout the process, based upon comments that we received from the various previous participants, many expressed at the last meeting, since your most recent finance committee meeting, that they felt that the capital fund would be more appropriate to incorporate into the authority's responsibility, which again, we would commence the development of an authority once we have.
Hang on. I need you to stop because this is just the way I think. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I'm interrupting because I want to contradict you. I just want to make sure that I understand something. So in the memorandum, to me, it clearly indicates that this MOU, there will be an hourly rate collected and there will be a capital hourly rate collected. And if I've heard you correctly, and I don't know that I have, the capital hourly rate won't be collected.
During the MOU process, that is correct.
So, but we're gonna.
There was no concern about that before, nor was there any stipulation of the terms of the MOU with your terms and conditions of August 1st of 2024. There was nothing specific to the terms and conditions of the MOU, but rather each municipality be afforded the opportunity to choose at their discretion whether they wish to enter into the program. That process has been accomplished. We'd ask for your consideration to transfer the equipment, trusting that Hampton Township is committed to, as are the other municipalities that enter into the MOU as referenced, that an authority would be developed. At that time, we would require, with the steering committee's guidance, the requirement of a capital campaign. We ultimately would become responsible for the maintenance of the equipment.
Does this MOU state that this is contingent upon the development of an authority?
I believe it does, ma'am.
Can you point that out to me, please?
Unfortunately, I left my glasses in the car.
I understand.
A few years ago, I would have been able to. I'll see if my staff member can. So that's all right. Thank you.
Actually, Gene, in the first paragraph, one of the whereas statements, it says intends to establish an MOU to facilitate the development of a joint municipal authority. So it's right in the first whereas.
Okay, thank you.
Could I add a
Thank you.
clarification?
Appreciate
Real quick. So the capital improvement, or the capital payment part of the fee was intended to be included as part of the MOU. But our meeting subsequent to your our last presentation here, you guys indicated we had 1 month to come up with a final plan. There was disagreement about the capital component. Not that it wouldn't ever be implemented, but how it would be implemented. So in the interim, we figured we need to operate this. And I think I did say that the worst case scenario, we run it into the ground. That would be the worst case scenario. To continue the program, my understanding was if we don't have an agreement by this date, you guys were going to sell the equipment and that ends the program. So in the interest of continuing the program, we eliminated the point of contention or lack of agreement until we could further evaluate that, come to an agreement, but agree on everything else. And always intending for the capital component to be reinstated as part of the authority process.
Is it your intent, the MOU is this many pages? It's 9 pages. There's 30. See, there are 5 pages. Yeah, I don't have my glasses. Okay, and then you've got this exhibit A. Is it your intent to not include exhibit A as part of the MOU?
No, Exhibit A will be incorporated. You may, through my apologies, you may have a version that is outdated. I'd be happy to provide you with the current version for today's purposes.
Love
Both of
that.
these. Sure.
If you have Fairview Township and East Pennsboro's executed versions, it should be in it.
Thank you.
These are not executed copies, but the latest draft post your previous finance meeting.
And I guess I feel compelled to say something for the record, though. This is different. This deadline hasn't really been a surprise. I mean, we did give a deadline, but this has been going on for a very long time. And I know that, are we a bit ready to be past this? Absolutely. So it wasn't as if it was given 1 month, though, to resolve all.
I didn't mean to imply that whatsoever, but we know it's been a process. You guys are at the end of your rope, so to speak. But you guys are ready to be done with it. We understood that. We took that forward knowing that we needed to come to terms in a month. And we weren't comfortable that we could come to terms relative to the capital component. So we paused that discussion as we further developed with every intention to continue it. Every intention to continue the program. And again, it was at least my understanding that if we didn't agree with something before this meeting, the program was going to end because you were going to make other means to dispose of or the part of the equipment responsibilities.
So, and I can appreciate not wanting to establish a capital account for a transient entity. You know, if you currently would have a capital account associated with this, who's really gonna own that? Who's really, who's establishing that? Who's monitoring that? That you would want to wait until the authority would be formed to have the capital then put in to start up the authority, which I can appreciate.
And I'm gonna ask a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can we go into executive session on this? I mean, if I'd like to move into executive session on this. Because I want to have a conversation. Okay. And see if I can clarify some things with Kirk, with staff on this.
Stacy, I'm turning.
Yeah, no,
to you.
I'm running through the list in my mind.
Thank you.
So we've been given new information.
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate.
There's legal requirements to the transfer of equipment.
Yeah, because it would be a negotiation. I think that's technically the, which part of the, it would fall
Transfer
under.
property
So,
is what it
Everybody's so
is.
fun.
So we all live in this world.
I know, I'm like. Gary, are you on?
is
I'm here.
camera is-
Yes, I'm here.
So Stacey, we can go into executive session on this.
Yeah, because it would fall under negotiation.
I'm gonna move to go into executive session on this.
And are we reconvening when that's concluded?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, but I like executive session.
So do you want us to step out? So
Okay, well, there's Gary, is there a second on the motion for
Yeah,
executive?
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. We
Want me to
will,
stay?
Are we live?
You are live.
He's on.
Yes, you guys are live.
okay. So we are resuming from executive session and we'll pick up the continuation of the discussion. Do we have to vote to come back in?
I will move to come out of executive session.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. We will resume from, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We will come back from the executive session and resume the discussion of the possible action on the approval to the request to DEP to approve the transfer of the county's yard waste recycling equipment. So gentlemen that are in the room and online, I understand we have some folks online as well. There were some inconsistencies with the documents that were pointed out by my colleague, and I think she has some additional follow-up questions that she wanted to pose if possible.
So today, this board is being asked to possibly move to request DEP's approval to transfer the county's yard waste recycling equipment to Hampton Township and authorize our own Kirk Stoner to execute the resulting DEP agreement on behalf of Cumberland County, subject to review and approval by our county solicitor. Now, I've got three sets of documents in front of me. I have a set of document from East Pennsboro Township. I'm really glad East Pennsboro Township is in the room. Okay, I've got a set of documents from Fairview Township. Fairview Township is not in the room. Hampton Township delivered to the board today a different document. Okay, so East Pennsboro, you've signed a document
Yes.
regarding the yard waste equipment program and the intent to form a joint authority.
Yes.
You signed this document with the Exhibit A,
Yes.
okay? What was presented today from Hampton Township is a different Exhibit A. Has different provisions in it. Are you aware of that?
No.
The difference, ma'am, if I may, is,
Hang on, can you just? hang
yes,
on?
ma'am, I'm sorry, forgive me.
So, and here's where things start to get icky for me. Okay,
Out of the one that we signed.
The one you signed, it's in, the one that Hampton presented today, it's out.
Okay.
That was your comment, right?
So no, so I want to clarify, we talked about it in the hallway as well. The issue we brought up in the last meeting with all municipalities was in regard to the initial capital contribution. There was, I think, in the first parts of the MOU, not in Exhibit A, was a portion regarding initial capital contribution that stated that it would be based upon what was returned from the county. In discussion with our commissioners, in discussion with our staff, we felt that it was unfair that we were looking back at a program and a number of people that had utilized a program in a certain percentage over the years. We were trying to assess a capital component based upon usage in the past. We were forming a new authority, and we felt that it was fair that all new members of this authority paid the same capital contribution, because we all got different amounts of money back from the county. So at that point, we discussed, and it was then confirmed later, that we would remove that initial capital contribution. The capital hourly rate, we take no issue with. The issue at hand was only with that initial capital contribution. There is still, the initial contribution in there is based upon, I think, average over 3 previous years of usage, probably going back to 2023, 2022, and 2021. And it's held in escrow for our usage going forward so that Hampton Township can invoice and draw out of that escrow account. So we don't, East Pennsboro Township doesn't have any issue with the capital hourly rate as assessed by the steering committee. going forward to start a capital account. But that initial capital contribution, we felt needed to be fair across the board. And if we weren't willing to do that, then we wanted that stricken.
Okay. Are you comfortable with what the township has signed?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and you are willing to work with Hamden on whatever changes would be made?
Yes.
They've presented
absolutely.
a draft here that is different. And
But
even
we haven't
different from
signed,
what
we
you
haven't
said.
signed, we haven't signed
Correct.
that.
Okay. And Hampton Township, you understand that this has not been signed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Because all we're being asked to do then is to transfer, is to go ahead and request DEP's approval to transfer. Okay. When I read this document, this new draft, I think it may. And again, it's a draft, right? No one has signed it, no one has agreed to it, but I think it may address some of your concerns.
May I add,
Mhm.
this is why we were in the point where we pulled out because there's never a final answer. We had given multiple, emails over the course of like 8 or 9 months. There would never be a response. We got frustrated because the other portion is we do not even know what the authority is going to consist of. I brought up the last meeting, you don't go buy a car without knowing the purchase price, your interest rate, the terms. We were stuck as to what our financial obligation would be. As far as the capital, the fairest way is predicated upon usage. If we have a small borough, say Kevin at Shippensburg, they should not be paying the same capital cost up front as what we would at Silver Spring because of the fact that we were a larger user.
So I'm gonna tell you this, I'm not anyone's mom in this room. I'm not, okay? I raised a concern because I now see 2 executed memorandums and the presentation of a draft memorandum that came as a surprise to me, okay? But all I'm being asked to do is to request DEP's approval to transfer. And this is not going to get any better if I waylay this today. It's not getting any better. It's not getting any better for the county. It's not getting any better for the equipment. And whether it's transferred by DEP or it goes out to municipal bid, it's got to be taken care of in the interim. Someone's got to be able to turn it on. Someone's got to be able to do it. And DEP will go through this very thoroughly. When they look at this MOU, when they look at whatever you're doing, whatever you're doing, they're going to look at it. So I'm going to put a motion on the table to request DEP's approval to transfer the county's yard waste recycling equipment to Hampton Township and to authorize Kirk Stoner to execute the resulting DEP agreement on behalf of Cumberland County, subject to the review and approval by the county solicitor. And I do not take it lightly that this board will be asking Kirk Stoner to execute this agreement, which is why I'm so serious about what is going on here. It's one of the reasons why I'm so serious. Right? I value Kirk. I value his opinion. And I value his signature and what he puts behind it. I'm very serious in getting this transferred so that this can be taken care of. But our municipalities have got to work this out. You've got to work this out.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I will second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Is there any other business to come before the board at this time?
Not having.
Okay.
Hey, may I, Madam Chair, ask one question for the county commissioners? With your motion that you made, does that permit those 3 municipalities to use the equipment in the interim?
No, we don't have the insurance to allow you to use the equipment.
They have insurance, but it hasn't been transferred. I can't speak to that. I
No,
can't imagine
it's
it
a hot-
would.
that's a no.
It's still under our
No.
ownership.
Thank you,
So-
Madam Chair.
All right. Any other business to come before the board at this time? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.